East Cleveland, Ohio, a city where everything is upside down. The police are criminals, the mayor is an alleged thief, and the buildings are crumbling. This isn't just a story about forgotten Rust Belt town. It's a tale of how a once prosperous suburb became one of America's poorest cities. But beyond the poverty and corruption, a disturbing myth holds the city back. Our journey to uncover the truth revealed a complex narrative of economic decline, systemic failures, and a community fighting for survival. This is what we found on the streets of East Cleveland. A lot of people buried here. An unfiltered look at a city on the brink. We originally intended to explore Cleveland, but a tip from a reader led us to East Cleveland, an independent city on the edge of its more famous neighbor. The signs of decay were immediate: abandoned buildings, pothole-riddled streets, and a general air of desolation. One of the few open businesses was a convenience store, where locals shared their unfiltered perspectives. One man, who'd been there since 2001, described a city that was different. He spoke of a mass exodus from the area, saying, "A lot of people buried, a lot of people went to jail, a lot of people got the hell out of here before they got buried." This grim reality was echoed by another local who described East Cleveland as a place where you have to know the streets to survive. He spoke of bodies being buried over there in the field and the constant threat of violence. Off camera, one man told us that bodies had recently been dumped in his yard. This is a city of hyperbole. It's a city of harsh, unforgiving truths. A tale of two clever lands, from Rockefeller's summer home to a city of blight. A century ago, Cleveland was America's fifth largest city, and East Cleveland was its affluent suburb. John D. Rockefeller, one of the wealthiest men in history, had his summer home here. The city was a hub of industry, home to the world headquarters of GE Lighting. But as industry collapsed in the 1960s, the jobs left, and East Cleveland's prosperity began to unravel. Initially, East Cleveland's population of 40,000, mostly white professionals, seemed insulated. However, as conditions in Cleveland deteriorated, middle-class black families moved to East Cleveland, a phenomenon that coincided with a white flight to other suburbs. As more industry left, businesses closed, and the middle-class black population also began to leave. The result was a city hollowed out by economic and social change, with crack gangs and violence filling the vacuum. Today, the statistics are staggering. 40% of East Cleveland's population lives in poverty, and the per capita income is a meager $14,526, making it the fourth poorest city in America. Is it systemic racism, or something else? A deep dive into a controversial debate. When we asked a man near an abandoned apartment complex what happened to East Cleveland, his answer was complex and controversial. He blamed drugs, crack, alcohol, mental problems, but also the government for not being fair to everybody. He dismissed the idea of systemic racism and over-policing, arguing that the city doesn't have enough police to patrol the area. He highlighted the issue of corruption, stating, "It's too many crooked cops," who he claimed would steal from people during arrests. The man, who identified as educated, also spoke about the importance of education and voting, criticized his community for focusing on presidential elections instead of local ones. His perspective offered a nuanced view that challenged common narratives about inner-city decline, focusing on personal responsibility and local political engagement. Another man we met, a Czech immigrant who escaped communism in 1980, highlighted the stark contrast between Cleveland and East Cleveland. He rated Cleveland a 7.5 out of 10 for safety, but East Cleveland a 4.5, calling it one of the worstest suburbs in the country. He cited drugs, prostitution, and murder as reasons for the low rating. Police are criminals themselves, the shocking truth behind East Cleveland's law enforcement. The most damning revelation came from a local who claimed that Cleveland refused to merge with East Cleveland because the city owes $50 million in civil lawsuit damages from police abuse. This claim, as shocking as it sounds, is all true. East Cleveland's police department has a history of corruption that reads like a crime novel. Numerous officers have been convicted of stealing from citizens. The former police chief resigned after sharing racist memes, and in a single year, 11 officers were indicted for assault and obstruction of justice. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was a systemic problem. Body camera footage released by the prosecutor's office showed officers kicking suspects and engaging in unlawful conduct. Charges against the officers included tampering with evidence, obstructing justice, and theft. The situation was so dire that the mayor begged the Ohio governor to send in the National Guard. The mayor who stole city funds. An inside look at political corruption. Just 4 months after his plea to the governor, the mayor himself was indicted for theft and corruption. He faced charges of theft in office and soliciting improper compensation. A local man we spoke to near a vacant building, which he claimed was left to rot due to mayoral mismanagement, confirmed the corruption. He said the mayor misused funds intended for demolition and was fighting to stay in office despite a felony charge. He also claimed the mayor's family were millionaires who didn't need the money they were allegedly stealing. This corruption, he argued, was the root cause of the city's fiscal emergency, which began in 1988 and continues to this day. The corruption in East Cleveland is not limited to one party. The city has had both Democratic and Republican mayors convicted of crimes. A Republican mayor who served from 1998 to 2004 was convicted of racketeering, extortion, mail fraud, and tax evasion. 4 years later, his son murdered his own mother, allegedly for snitching on his father. Dumping spot for bodies? A vacant building's sinister secret. The consequences of this corruption are visible everywhere. Vacant buildings, like the one we visited, have sat empty for years, becoming criminal hideouts and eyesores. One local, visibly disturbed, speculated that the building could be a dumping spot for bodies, a place where no one would ever look. He reminisced about the building's former glory, a prestige apartment complex with a popular disco downstairs, and lamented its decay due to mismanagement and a lack of investment. Was East Cleveland destroyed by design? A conspiracy theory that hits a little too close to home. Art McCoy, an East Cleveland native author and anti-gun violence activist, presented a theory that was both chilling and compelling, that the destruction of East Cleveland was by design. He argued that the city's decline was a deliberate effort to drive out residents in a process he called gentrification. McCoy believes that the government played a role in introducing drugs like crack into black communities to accelerate their decline. It's not a thought, he said, this is real. He recounted a period where young men were selling crack, flourishing for a time, and then vanishing, only to be replaced by another wave. He believes the government busted the first group and brought in another. He also claimed they tried to do it again with heroin, but that the drug spread into white communities prevented a similar level of destruction in the black community. McCoy's theory, which he calls a deep line, is a common belief in the community. He sees the gentrification process as a slow burn strategy that can take decades to unfold. Millionaires row versus pothole-riddled streets. The redlining myth. The stark contrast between East Cleveland and its neighboring suburb, Bradenall, is a testament to the city's plight. A highway splits the two, and crossing it feels like entering a different world. Bradenall is a world of gated estates and mansions on Lake Erie. We tried to talk to a woman in Bradenall, but she dismissed our questions by saying, "Don't you know what redlining is?" Redlining, the former government practice of marking certain areas as high risk, is often cited as the cause of inner-city failure. But this narrative doesn't fit East Cleveland's history. Redlining ended in the 1960s, a time when East Cleveland was still a wealthy, white suburb. The real story, as the video suggests, is a failure by all levels of government and a tale of people using institutions to exploit people rather than help them. It's easier for the wealthy residents of Bradenall to blame the past than to address the problems of today.